Hi, Nancy. Thank you for being on FabTV.
Thank you for inviting me.
How come we love these type of shows? I mean, the number one show on Netflix is American Murder. Number one.
And you know, the funny thing about that is we all know what happens in the end of American Murder. It's about killer dad, Chris Watts, who murdered his beautiful wife, Shanann Watts, who was pregnant with baby Nico. And then they had their two children, Bella and Celeste, their two little girls. It's amazing to me that he could pull that off for as many hours or days as he actually did. But I think what really captivates everyone is that if you saw Chris Watts pass you in the grocery store out jogging, you'd think, there goes a dad. Or there, of course, he was in a midlife crisis, so he didn't really look like a dad. He got all buff, got covered in tattoos. If I caught my husband without a shirt on taking a selfie, I'd call everybody in his family right then, because we would all need to get him in for an intervention.
You know, there was a lot of clues for her to recognize that she was just too forgiving and too in love.
She was totally in love, but I think that she knew or strongly suspected he was having an affair, because she mentioned that to a friend that later is the one that called police to say that she thought Shanann was missing. But she was so concerned, she canceled their gender reveal party. She's like, oh, H-E-double-L, no, I'm not having a gender reveal while you're cheating. That's not happening. But another thing that really got to me about Shanann Watts, I've looked at the interior of her home. It was just picture perfect. I mean, she was striving in every way to have this perfect home. She had gone to such lengths to decorate it. It was just perfect. It looked like it was out of a catalog, a furniture catalog. And she always had on the cutest outfits and would dress her children up. And it's amazing to me. Of course, I'm looking at a lot of her Facebook that has been since taken down, but she was projecting this image that she wanted. It wasn't fakery. That was her goal. And then this husband comes in and messes the whole thing up.
So why do we like these shows so much? Why are we so like, why are you so into it?
Well, because it's almost as if the mind is tricking the eye, because you see this guy that seemingly has it all. And I like to use the Scott Peterson example. A lot of people, not me, definitely not me, thought Peterson was handsome, smart, college degree, great golfer, wonderful job, beautiful home and family. And it's almost as if you're tricking yourself. You see this guy, which some people would think total package. How could he have murdered his gorgeous young wife who adored him, pregnant with their first baby, on Christmas Eve? It's almost too much to take in. And the other scary part of that hooks you is they look like your next door neighbor or your nephew or your cousin or your uncle or a friend. And it's really hard to believe what, to coin a phrase, lurks in the heart of men.
That's why that series on Netflix is called The Family Next Door, because Chris Watts looked like a good guy and no remorse, it's amazing to me.
None. And even now in jail, he says he looks at their pictures and he goes, wow, I could have had 3 wonderful children, a beautiful wife. Now I'm all alone. It's me. Hello, you're alone because you committed this horrendous murder. It's on you, man.
Okay, so here's my next question. The forensic genealogy and this we kind of got a good grip on it now. And a lot of it is to convict. What percentage is it to convict? And should it be more also to exonerate?
Well, that's the wonderful thing about science. Science doesn't have a dog in the fight. Science such as familial DNA and all the new cutting edge technologies such as mitochondrial DNA, which is strictly on your mother's side. Say, I find your hair in the hand of a dead victim. and it doesn't have a nucleus. There's no root. I've got to go with mitochondrial DNA, which is just your mother's side DNA. So I can track down your mother, then look at her offspring. I can pretty well identify it's you. Then there's Y chromosome DNA from the father. There is touch DNA. There is genotyping, which I love. There's so many new technologies with DNA. And what's so amazing is it can nail the bad guy and it can exonerate the good guy so that justice is carried out. No one wants to think of an innocent person behind bars. It just makes me sick. I feel sick to my stomach thinking of that. After my fiance was murdered so many years ago, just before our wedding, I dropped out of school studying English literature, Shakespearean studies, and became a crime fighter instead, ultimately. And I became part of the system as a prosecutor for so many years in inner city Atlanta. The thought that someone is wrongly convicted or wrongly accused, it makes me feel awful, sick to my stomach because the system failed. And I don't like that.
Which cases out there, open cold cases, that you want to see resolved, like your top three? Not to pick any in particular, but there's some that are worse than others.
You know, people often ask me, what's your favorite case? And it's very often I compare it to someone saying, well, what's your favorite child? I don't have a favorite. You know, in Bloodline Detectives, we cover cases that people have heard of and cases that nobody has ever heard of. None of those victims are more important than the other. And what's so disturbing in the cases that we investigate at Bloodline Detectives is that, unlike in my case where my fiance was murdered, I know who did it. There was a court case, there was a conviction. But in these cases, these victims' families have spent huge chunks of their lives seeking justice, trying to find out who killed their daughter, their son, their loved one. They never know. And it's such a burden. And you look back and you see that you spent so much of your life seeking justice. And I'm just so proud that, like on Bloodline Detectives, we can help these people move on to their next phase in life.
What's so different about Bloodline Detectives versus all the other detective shows or these kind of shows? What makes it so?
Well, number one, it's real. This is not some script that some guy sitting in a swivel chair looking down at Rodeo Drive in Hollywood dreamed up in his head or stole from somebody else and said it was his. So these aren't pretend plots. These are real cases with real victims, cases that have seemingly hit a dead end that are deemed unsolvable, cases through no fault of the cops. They reach a dead end. They run out of leads. And with a crushing caseload, you have to keep going. You can't sit around and cry into your beer that you couldn't solve this one. You got to move on to the next one and keep working, keep moving forward. So these cases get left behind. And seemingly there's nothing that can be done about them. What I love so much is technology doesn't lie unless it's misapplied somehow by a human. But these families are finally getting answers after losing such a big part of their lives.
Is the United States the leader in this convicting and exonerating, or is there other countries that are kind of on the ball with this as well?
Well, the cases that we're covering go all over. We go from the US, we go to UK, we go to Canada to get our cases that best depict Bloodline Detectives. Yeah, we're ahead. We're ahead by sheer numbers. Our technology in the US is more cutting edge. Britain is on it too. Great Britain, England. But by sheer numbers, due to our population, we are ahead. I mean, if that is any in a blue ribbon that you solve more murders than another country, maybe it's because you have more murders. think about it like that. But the answer to that very simply would be yes.
How does it feel when some families have come in contact with you and like thank you for your passion towards getting all these people?
I feel overwhelmed. I feel grateful. Not not because of what happened to my fiance. I'm not grateful for that, but I'm grateful. I grew up on a red dirt road in Middle Georgia. The library's bookmobile for needy families would come park in front of our house. I'm grateful that I was given an opportunity and had my parents that helped me get to law school and find a way to try and heal myself after Keith's murder, because with every guilty conviction, I would go, phew. It wasn't a jubilation or celebration. It was a relief for that moment. A bad guy was off the street. Just for that moment, I did something good. And with every Band-Aid I put on a victim's family, what I look back and see now is I was putting a Band-Aid on myself. So when a victim's family or anyone thanks me, I'm not responsible. I'm just, let me say, the ringmaster. I feel so grateful to them that I was given the opportunity to do something good. And that's how I feel about Bloodline Detectives. It's fascinating. It not only mixes the elements of a true crime and hard detective work with rapidly developing science. I mean, I could talk about blood spatter all day long and into the night. Nothing can make me happier. But the fact that we give peace to these families means the world to me, because I know how they feel.
I'm so sorry about Keith. It just
You know, the Lord has a funny way of working. When I thought I would never be a wife or mother, it took me over 20 plus years before I could even consider walking down the aisle again, but I did. And now I have my twins, John, David, and Lucy. But the ripple effect goes on. Because I waited so long, I couldn't deal with what had happened to Keith. Lucy, my daughter, and I almost died in childbirth because I was an older mom. And now it changes the way I raise them. I watch them like a hawk. You know, I have to try to pretend they're independent. So it changes your life. But at least I had knowledge of what happened. And I want that for these crime victims' families.
you think some of these unsolved murders, criminals are afraid of you?
They better be. Because guess what? I'm not afraid of them.
No, I know you're not. That's for sure. What do you like about blood splatter so much? What because it gives so many clues.
Oh, don't just say it that way. It's not blood spatter.
Okay.
It's blood spatter.
Okay.
And it's not always spatter. It could be a smear. It could be a drop. It could be a spray. It could be throwback. And that one spot of blood tells me so much. I remember the first time I was ever struck with the power of blood evidence. The district attorney, who's like a grandfather to me, called me down on the speaker. Nancy, come to my office. I'm like, oh, I did not take the elevator. I took the back steps and ran in high heels. That's when women thought they had to dress like men. So I had on the suit and a shirt. Blah, blah, blah. I ran down. I'm like, hello, what is it? And he had the paper up. He pulled the paper down and goes, I want you to investigate what they say is a suicide. I'm like, okay. Turns out a friend of his, who was then a named partner in a big law firm in Atlanta, daughter had committed suicide, but it was not as it seemed. We got the sheets. She committed suicide naked in her bed, which right there, based on analysis of method and assessment of homicide and suicide, that would not happen. Right there. Shooting herself in the head, naked in her bed, no. But we got the bed sheets to the crime lab. We put him up with a light behind him, and we could see where blood spatter from the gun went under her pillow. Now, how did that happen? It didn't happen. She was murdered, and the scene was staged because of one tiny blood spatter. See what I mean? So it's not just blood spatter. It can tell you volumes about a case.
Of course, the direction, the time it happened. I mean, it's a giant scope of how it could, how splatter could give you clues. My next question is about Bloodline Detectives or any other, show in detective show, investigative show, is how important is the narrator? Because the narrator gives a good style and like feel to like what's going on too.
I always like it when the narrator knows what they're talking about. I don't really give much stock to talking heads that I know for a fact, just reading a script, if the teleprompter went down, Lord help him. I like the narrator to bring something to the table. That's important to me because it adds to the credibility of the content. And so I feel that that is very important in any presentation. And again, this is not just a show like horses jumping over a fence. This is a program dedicated to seeking the truth. It's anything but a show. It's real. These are real people with real crimes and real suffering and real detectives and scientists.
You've had so much happen to you and you've overcome everything. You've had a great career. You've done you're a person I really admire. Is there any unfinished business left for you? I mean, not like
Yes, there are more cases than I can count. We have to turn away cases. Not that we don't want to get to them. We can't physically do them all. It reminds me of one time I would never go. I don't like being in an office. And I would go I was on trial, go from the courtroom to the parking deck and back and forth. And by the end of one case, I think I was on trial for 3 straight weeks. And I finally went back to my office. And I went back and there was a jug of milk on my desk that I'd left there and an uneaten dozen of Krispy Kreme donuts. Okay, that was mine too. But the point is, there was a stack of new cases. They'd be coming and dumping them on my desk every Tuesday and Thursday grand jury would meet. And it had gotten so high, it had cascaded across like dominoes my desk and started falling into toward the trash can and knocked the trash can over on the other side of the desk. My point is, there are so many cases that need our attention, need someone that cares, someone that can offer something, bring something new to the table, like Bloodline Detectives, to solve those cases. And as long as those cases exist, I'm in business. I've got a mission.
I'm always telling my girlfriend, like, hey, because she walks oblivious to her car and back. She just like, la, 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 on her phone. And I'm like, please be a hockey player. Please be like, what's that guy looking at you? Right? I love that. Right. Don't be a victim.
This just came out. It took me 2 years to research and write it. It's based on every case I ever investigated, took to trial personally, or covered. All my proceeds, 100%, are going to National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And I talk about safe while you're shopping, safe while you're exercising, safe while you're in your car. Have you ever thought, probably wrongly, somebody was following you? You're like, who's that? What do you do? What if somebody fender benders you alone on a 2-lane somewhere? What do you do? I speak to a woman that went to Kroger, 3 little boys in the car, then went to like Walgreens or CVS, got back in the car driving off, and she sees the guy come out of the way back with a knife. I gave myself chill bumps. What do you do? Traveling safety. We're very big on camping, RVing, being in the wilderness. What can you do to travel safely abroad, at home, RV camping, in your hotel? What can you do in your own home to stay safe? Then how to keep your children safe and even the elderly, and of course, safe online. So there are so many things you can do to not be a victim. And you're right. Please speak to her, because the majority of victims are those most vulnerable in our society, children and women.
You know, as a guy too, even men, women, when I even eat in my car, I'm like, mirror, 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 what you got to constantly look, because the surprise attack is one of the ways.
And the whole point of the book is, I don't want people to live in fear.
Right, right.
At this day and age, there were so many people feel powerless with everything going on around us. I don't want that. I feel empowered, because this gives you information. You don't have to live in fear. You can live knowing you're ready if needed. You're ready. You're locked and loaded. And that's how you and she should feel. I don't want people cowering in their cars. I want them to play smart.
Yeah, not being feared, just being aware. Just being aware of your surroundings.
Very much so. And what you can do, a million things you can do without a lot of money and pre-planning. You can fight back against crime.
No doubt. Such an honor to interview you. I see you everywhere all the time. You're such a passionate fighter, and I love you for it.
I got to tell you something. I'm really touched by what you just said. And I really hope that, just enjoy Bloodline Detectives, but that you learn about modern technology solving crimes in the here and now. And I guarantee you, next year, when we talk again, God willing, there'll be new advances in forensic technology, and we will be using it to solve cases. So you know what? All you criminals out there that think you got away with it, don't be too sure.
I love when you do that. That gave me the chills. That gave me the chills. That's awesome.
I hope you're not a criminal. I hope you're not scared. Hey, maybe you are. I need to do a background check on you.
You should do more videos like that.
I will.
I just got a little like, whoa, I would hate to have you against me in any way.
You know what? I very rarely turn Nancy Grace on the children, but when I do, it still works. That probably won't last much longer. They're almost 13. Ugh, how did that happen?
Does Nancy Grace take a vacation from Nancy Grace, the investigator, attorney?
No, not really. But I will tell you this. When I finally had the children, it changed my life, because I don't want them to have a preoccupied or sad or obsessed mom. I want to be the mom that they need. So I try to turn it off when I get the twins every day. And you do know I pick them up.
Oh, that was one thing. The last thing I wanted to talk about is that it's like the kids going to and from school, it's like 40% of when they get attempted abductions. 40%.
You're so right. And that was a shocker to me. I learned that from my colleague, Mark Class. His daughter, Polly, was kidnapped out of her own home, and she was murdered. He became a crime fighter then, and he hit me with that stat. I made him repeat it because I couldn't believe it's true. It is. Nearly 40% of all abductions and attempts occur as it relates to the route to school, the school bus, and the route home, pick up, drop off, everything related to getting to and from school. I mean, think about J.C. Duger. She was on her way to school. Aton Pats on his way to school. I mean, it happens over and over and over. And there are things you can do to protect your child. Even if I was a latchkey kid, my mom was gone when I woke up, and she was not home when I got home, nor was my dad. He had to travel for his work with the railroad. So we were latchkey kids, and we followed a lot of these rules. And they're very simple. They're not hard to do. So yes, that's an amazing statistic and scary, but there are ways to fight back.
I could talk to you for 7 days straight.
Likewise.
I love you. I love your style, and I'll talk to you next year.
Hey. After you watch Bloodline Detectives, invite me back. I'd like to hear what you think.
Well, can I tell you sincerely, honestly, normally when I have to watch movies to interview celebrities and actors and directors, right? If you know, I know I'm saying this out loud, but it's the truth. Sometimes I skim through. I'm like, I got the movie, I got it. But Bloodline, I watched the whole thing.
You know what? That's saying a lot, because these times, I just fast forward, just get to the end, please, for Pete's sake. That's a compliment. Thank you. I'll take a compliment wherever I can get one. Thank you.
And you're gorgeous, and I love your power. I'll talk to you later. We got to cut it because I can talk to you part 3, part 4, part 5.
Okay. Hey, let's meet again after you watch a couple more Bloodline Detectives. I want to hear what you think.
Absolutely, I will. I'll give you my honest opinion.
Bye, my love.